Hey, shalom, Miss Picard. This is Morey Medad Yahoo. In prayer today, received the instruction, so I'm just going to follow the instruction. And I got confirmation from talking to other people. And so this is what the Father wants to put out there for us. Because you'll see as we go along, and this will be real short, that he's asking the question, will you dive deeper? And we have here a picture of an iceberg. Many are just scratching the surface. They're only at surface level with what we're doing with this prayer challenge. But it's time to go further in, to look further down into our heart, which is our mind, and to see some things for what it's really worth. Okay, so we're going to first go over, he asked me to, gave me Psalms 51 to read. Now, I want you to notice something here. This was a Psalm of David, or Daoud, or David, or Dawid. We'll just say David for the sake of shortness. When Nathan the prophet went to him after he had gone into Bathsheba. So, we're talking about a specific sin. Now, I want you to think about what we're doing. We're talking about our forefathers' sins, and we're talking about coming out of Mitzrayim all the way up to the present. And we also talking about the iniquities and transgressions. We're talking about our iniquities and transgressions and sin also. So when we start reading this psalm, I want you to think about all of that. Whereas this psalm David did was encompassing one little subject matter. But we're encompassing subject matter from coming out of Egypt, our forefathers, all the way up to this present day. So let's read this. Have mercy on me, O Alahiym, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. You have all three of them mentioned: transgression, iniquity, sin. For I know my transgression and my sin is ever before me. Against you, you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight, so that you may be justified in your words and blameless in your judgment. Okay, nothing that we've done or our forefathers done, we can cast blame on Yahuwah. It's all our doing. We got to own up to it. There has to be some acknowledgement, confession, humbling, and acceptance. And many are still on the surface level with this. And not everyone, but some are still on the surface level. And I'm trying to get you to see the vastness of what has happened. When I've been in prayer over the course of days, I've gone back. And notice what the Father had us do. He had us to do the 90-day reading challenge first. So we've read everything that's written that the forefathers have done. And what would happen? In your prayer time, that took 30 days. I mean, that took 90 days to do, including the Brit Hadashah. And that required an hour a day. So if we're just going through the forefather sins, that can eat away at that hour's worth of time. No doubt about it. And I haven't even begun to talk about yours, because we haven't. I'm wondering, have we really walked out our life with a confession and a humbling and acceptance? Because I'm telling you, when you start doing this, it's going to really do something in your ruach. We're going to talk about that shortly. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you delight in truth in the inward being, and you teach me wisdom in the secret heart. Purge me with hyssop. Now, where does hyssop, where do you see hyssop? You see hyssop in the sacrifices. Okay? We've got to see this thing. We deserve death. Even on the best day, we deserved it. And if you come in with any other thought, you might want to look and check your pride to see if you're really humbling yourself like you're supposed to. And I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Remember, they washed the entrails, the inside of the sacrifices. And this is the part that we're trying to get through. Not just the stuff we see on the surface, but we're trying to get down into the soul of our being with all of this. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones that you have broken rejoice. Hide your face from my sin. Blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O Alahiym, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your set-apart spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with a willing spirit. Then I will teach transgressors your ways, and sinners will return to you. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O Alahiym of my salvation. And my tongue shall sing aloud of your righteousness. O Yahuwah, well, that says, O Adonai, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. For you will not delight in sacrifice, or I would give it. You will not be pleased with burnt offerings. Okay, now listen to this. So this is he doesn't want the animal as a sacrifice. There's something in you that he wants. But until you get to the point, go through this confession, this humbling, and this acceptance, it's not accessible. Because there's something that has to take place in you. And I'm praying that he reveals it. The sacrifices of Alahiym are a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. O Alahiym, you will not despise. Do good to Zion in your good pleasure. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then will you delight in right sacrifices and burnt offerings and whole burnt offerings, when bulls will be offered on your altar. Okay, now, want to go back over here. This is where we're going. Because in order for where we need to go in this prayer to be achieved, there has to be a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. That's what he doesn't despise. And to get there, it's not surface level. It's deeper than that. Okay? Now notice, Yahuwah is near, Psalms 34:18, to the brokenhearted and saved the crushed in spirit. You've got to keep diving deeper. And the greater your confession, the greater humbling and the greater acceptance you have, it's going to break something inside of you. And I'm telling you, you're going to feel it. You're going to know the instance. Some have already shared with me this happening, but some are yet struggling. That's why we have to keep doing it. It's like you're trying to break a rock. You keep hitting the rock. You keep hitting the rock. And before you know it, a crack forms. And after the crack, another crack forms. And you keep hammering, And before you know it, the rock is in pieces. And you keep hammering. And before you know it, you got powder before you. Now he can deal. Psalms 32:5. I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgression to Yahuwah, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Selah. So this breaking that we have, okay, we talked about the sacrifice, and what he's looking for, this sacrifice is in you. There's when you look at this, Zebach, and you have there Zion, which is to cut or pierce. It's like a war weapon. And then we have a chet. And we're talking about a fence. So we're piercing or breaking the fence. See, that's what he's trying to do. He wants you to go beyond the surface. He wants to get to the inside of you. That's what the sacrifice is all about. Remember when in the sacrificial system, it was about, they would clean out the inside. But there has to be a piercing in you, a piercing of your fence. What's surrounding you? What's surrounding your house? And there's got to be a piercing of your understanding, your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, how you think. Those things have got to be humbled. Okay? He wants to break, okay, to burst, to crush, destroy. And look at this. Look what this breaking. Remember when if we go back, what is he breaking? He's breaking the ruach. Okay? Your spirit. the sheen, the bet, and the resh. The sheen to consume or destroy. The resh is the head, the house. He's destroying, he's destroying the head of your house because he wants to be the head. So in order, remember the Mashiach says you must bind the strong man. So you've got to let go. You've got to be broken. Then when we get to the contrite heart, it's dealing with the mind. Okay? That's when we talk heart, we're talking mind, the dalit, the kaf, and the hay. The dalit is the door. Okay? Can be the passageway. Behold. And then the kaf is the hand or cover. The kaf could also be to give. The door, behold, gives. So we've got to, when you think of contrite, think of not just broken, but think of pulverized. It's collapsed. And it can be physically or mentally. Many of us have not come to the realization that we don't deserve any of his forgiveness. If you look at the sacrifice, we deserve death on the best day. And that's why these offerings were continual. These approach offerings. We've done lessons on those, so I'm not going to go back over those. You need to get those. You need to dig back through our lessons to find those. But what he's simply trying to tell us, Miss Bakah, you've got to leave the surface behind. There's a greater part of you that he's after. The question is, will you surrender it? See, a sacrifice it surrenders. It tells us in Romans to be a living sacrifice, set apart and acceptable, which is our reasonable service. Will you surrender? Will you surrender? You surrender through this confession. The more confession, the more humbling and acceptance that you experience. I'm telling you, if you look at this thing from the right perspective, you will not run out of things to say. Because I could, just my life alone, I walked my whole life out before him. Mistakes I've made. Things that he told me I didn't listen, or I didn't heed the warnings. I mean, everything comes on the table. Then I'm back and forth between my life and the forefathers because I'm trying to get the most out of this challenge. I'm not going to let my mind dictate and say that I've done enough. I am going to continue to this 30-day challenge, and it's going to continue to still go forward because we've got to surrender places in us that we've been holding on to. He desires it. And those places aren't on the surface anymore. Many of us can come to service. We can dance, we can shout, we can, even some can cry a little bit. But there's a greater part of you that he's looking for. And you will know it when you give it. because it's going to do something in your ruach and in your life, and people going to know it. So just a short prayer. Father, I pray for my mispakah that are in this challenge. Father, cause them to go deeper. Cause them to search this thing out in you. Father, do this, that your name may be esteemed. Do it, Father, to bring honor, not to us, but we honor you. And we thank you. In Mashiach Yahusha, Hallel to Yahuwah. Amen. All right, Miss Pekah, remember, leave the surface behind.